I'm sorry, the thoracic cage, and then there's a vertebral column. And actually, I guess there's a third part, and that would be the range of motions. But if we look at the thoracic cage, all right, how many ribs are there?
12.
There are 12 pairs of ribs, right? So you can count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then we have the 2 that are hanging out down here, right? So that's 12. The first 7 are called true ribs. So on the exam, when I say, show me the true ribs, I want you to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay? That way I know that you know there's 7. The next 5 then, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, are the false ribs. Okay? The false ribs can still be broken down to these 2 hanging out down here. These are called floating ribs. All right? So, why are true ribs called true ribs?
They're actually attached to the...
Because they're connected, right? They have a direct connection with the sternum, right, or the breastbone. And that connection, it doesn't show as well on here. But if you look at this one here, obviously there's a rib coming around. This is the costal cartilage. Do you have to know that? Yes. If I point to that, you'll tell me that's the costal cartilage. And it then connects the first 7 ribs directly into the sternum. 8, 9, and 10 tend to connect into separate costal cartilage that goes in indirectly, or that goes then directly in. All right? The other part in here, if we look at the breastbone, or the sternum, it has 3 parts to it. The first part is this expanded part up top. That is the manubrium. Most of it through here, that is called the body of the sternum. And then we have our little tip down here, that is called the xiphoid process. Okay? So xiphoid process, body of the sternum, manubrium. All right? The other thing you have to do is you have to know how many bones are in the spine itself. The spine itself is broken down into 3 spots when we talk about the spine. We have the cervical spine, we have the thoracic spine, we have the lumbar spine. How many bones are in the cervical spine? Anyone? 7. Right? There are 7 of them. How do we count them? We just count them 1 through 7. We start with the one closest to the skull. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. How many thoracics?
12.
Right, same as the ribs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then last but not least, how many lumbars?
5.
There are 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? Now, so if I were to say to you, show me thoracic 8. All right? Then all you're going to do is you're going to say, all right, here's C1. You'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then you'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right? So, if I say to you, what about L2? All right? You can count all the way down, right? 1 through 7, 1 through 12. Or you can go 5, 4, 3, 2. Right? Just know that 5 is closest to the tailbone, right? Tailbone is made up of what? 2 bones?
Pelvis.
Well, we're going to go with the sacrum, right? And then we have the coccyx that sits off the end. All right, so you have to know those 2 bones for this as well. All right, so that's that part of the exam. Like the ribcage. Stuck my finger before. All right. Now the good news, bad news. You have to know the different parts of a thoracic, cervical, and lumbar vertebra. Okay? That's the bad news. The good news, however, they're all the same. All right? With a couple little differences. So let's take a look. This is a typical thoracic vertebra. Now, notice this little hole here in the middle, that shouldn't be there. All right? That is just how this was held onto the spine. Like this little pole that's running through. All right? So that little hole right there should not be there. All right? So if we look at a thoracic vertebra, this part here is called the body. All right? That's this main part here. If I tilt them forward, we have a part that runs from the body. This little spot right here, that is called the pedicle. All right? We then have a spot that runs here and here, right? The pedicle's on both sides. We have it there and there. We have this part that runs back here. That is called the lamina. The lamina meet in the back, and this is the spinous process. So when you feel then either your neck or you feel down the back of the somebody's spine, what are you feeling? You're feeling that spinous process. All right? The other things on here that you have to know, we have these little side wings here. All right, on both sides, that is the transverse process. All right? We have a big hole here. This one should be there. That's where the spinal cord runs, right? That is the vertebral foramina, or vertebral foramen. And then the last thing that you have to know is the little flat spot there and there. And there's one underneath there and there. Those are called the articulating facets. So what that means is if I'm looking at this vertebra up here, the vertebra articulates with the bone above and below. All right? So that is what the facet does. It's got a good aim. Here we go. Right back. What's that?
Oh, the video is in my video.
Oh, we'll finish in just a second. Hang on.
Videoception.
All right, so let's go ahead and review it one more time. All right, everybody back? All right, so here's our thoracic vertebra. Big part is the body, right? Then we have this spot that goes off the body back. That is the pedicle, right? Then from the pedicle, we have the spot that comes back to meet in the middle. That's the lamina. The spot that I'm holding with my finger, that is the spinous process, right? The spot that I have in either finger here, that's the little wings, that's the transverse process. The big hole is the vertebral foramina or foramen. And then we have our little articulating facets. One's there, and then underneath we have one there and there. All right? Now if I go to a lumbar, how do I know it's a lumbar?
It's big.
It's bigger. As we move down the spine, right, from cervical down to the lumbar, the bones get bigger. So if we look at a lumbar vertebra, the big part here is the body. We have this spot coming off the body. That's the pedicle. We have this spot coming back to meet in the middle. That would be the lamina. We have this here in the back. That's the
spinous process.
We have our little wings on the side. That's the
transverse process.
We have the big hole.
Vertebral foramen. And then we have our flat spots. One there, one there. One there, one there. And that would be the articulating facets. All right?
It's all the same. They're just different sizes.
Yep. So once you know one of them, then they're fairly easy to know. Now if we look at a cervical vertebra. Again, the main part is this. That's the body. We have the spot coming off that leads back here. That's the pedicle. We have the spot that joins back in here. That's the lamina. We have the spot back here. That's the spinous process. We do have our little wings here and here. Those are the transverse process. We have the big hole. That's vertebral foramina. Now we do have one thing that's different on these guys. If we look at the transverse processes, these holes are supposed to be there. These are called transverse foramen. Okay? And this is what makes a cervical vertebra different than a thoracic. So if you're looking at these two and you're not sure what's a cervical and what's a thoracic, look at the transverse processes. If it's got holes in them, meaning the foramina, then it's a cervical. Right? If there are no holes, then it's a thoracic. Okay? The other thing that you don't really, it's not really shown on this very well, but the other thing that makes a cervical vertebra different, it's shown a little bit better on here. But if you look at the spinous processes, these guys actually are bifid, meaning there are two little tips to them, whereas all the thoracics come back to one point, as do the lumbars. So a spinous process has transverse processes, or foramina, right? And it'll have what is considered a bifid spinous process, even though if I look at this one, it doesn't really look bifid. It looks like it's the transverse foramen. That's the little hole things out here in the transverse process. This little hole right shouldn't be there.
Okay, yeah.
All right.
One, the end.
But that one should be.
Transverse.
Right. That's what distinguishes him from all the other vertebrae. All right, now, it would be nice if it just finished there, right?
Yeah.
But We have